Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen meeting, Town of Wolfeboro. This is the December 6, 2017 meeting to order. Mr. Owens, do we have a need for non-public tonight?
Yes, I have one item of litigation, and then you have some non-public meeting minutes to review.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. I just want to start out tonight. Obviously, many of you know, and the public knows, that there was a tragic accident yesterday involving, one of our town workers, Wes Smallage, who was tragically hit while working for the Department of Public Works. And on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the Town of Wolfeboro, obviously, we offer our thoughts and prayers to him and his family as he's recovering at Maine Med. And obviously, in this line of work, we don't expect something like this to happen, but it always is a awakening moment when something truly tragic does happen like this. And so I'd just like to take a moment and just think about him and his family and what they're going through, and offer our thoughts and prayers for that. Mr. Ford is here tonight, and he just wanted to say a few words. And Mr. Ford.
Thank you. Dave Ford, Public Works Director. I just wanted to reiterate the point that our thoughts and our prayers are with Wesley and his family. We would like the community, in terms of supporting him, that for full recovery, that he's going to be coming back to us. It was a situation of, like I say, a lot of our guys, the police, the fire, water crews, sewer, highway, we have to work in the roadway. Again, just when you see those signs, just the public, you really need to slow down, pay attention. Again, this could have happened to any one of us. It could have happened to me. I'm on the road a lot. It's affected a lot of our men and women in the whole town. But again, at this point, he's stable. We believe he's still in ICU up at Portland, Maine Medical. And I just want him and his family to know we are going to be supporting them. And if anyone would like to send cards or anything like that, they can come through the Public Works, as we'll be going down to visiting. And again, like I say, we need to remain positive that he'll have a full recovery and he'll be back with us after his recuperation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Owen?
Yes, just to reiterate a little bit of what Dave Ford said, that when people see those men working signs out in the street, you really do need to slow down and give them a wide berth. And this was an example of somebody that did everything right, had the signs out, had the flasher on the truck, and was following all the safety protocols, and it's still we had this tragic incident. I know the board has discussed amongst itself, the members, the possibility of establishing some kind of a relief fund for Mr. Smallage and his family. He's covered by town health insurance, but his and he'll be eligible for workers' compensation. But his family is incurring expenses being over at Maine Medical Center and tending to him. So if the board wishes to establish such a fund, I did talk to town council, and Peter talked to our auditor, and I believe you could do this by setting up a special revenue account or a gift account, as we sometimes call it. And you could call it the Wes Smallage Family Relief Fund, or whatever you want to call it. And if people are interested in donating, the checks should be made out to the town of Wolfeboro, and then down in the on the memo section, write Wes Smallage Relief Fund, and we'll see that it gets in that gift account. Now, town council did say that if we set up such a fund, that we should only pay out with proper invoices and such. So they'll have to present invoices for their expenses that are consistent with the purposes of the fund, and then we'll make payment.
Mr. Owen, you want to explain what a number of the staff members have done, so the public knows that?
Oh, well, a number of town employees have inquired about donating some of their excess leave time because Mr. Smallage worked with us previously, and then he left, and then he came back this fall in September, and so he only has a small amount of leave time accumulated since he came back. And so a number of town employees have inquired about donating excess leave time so that he continues to get fully paid. Workers' compensation covers 2/3 of your compensation. The leave time will help make up that other third so that he continues to be fully compensated during his recovery, which is probably going to be quite a long period of time given the gravity of his injuries.
Need a motion to set up that fund?
That would be good.
I'd like to make a motion that we set up the relief fund as proposed, and also give the board appreciates the help already received, and I think we'll just make it sure that this is not part of the motion. We'll make it sure that everything is okay for this family, but I move that we set up the relief fund.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the proposed? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Owen.
You bet.
Next, we have approval of meeting minutes dated November 15th, 2017. It was a regular meeting. Board? Any discussion on those minutes, any corrections?
I'll make a motion to accept them as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have one public hearing tonight. It's a temporary outdoor event permit. It's Wolfeboro Area Chamber of Commerce to hold fireworks over Wolfeboro Bay on December 31st, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. at the display launch from Brewster Academy.
Thank you. Mary DeVries from the Wolfeboro Area Chamber of Commerce, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to again present the fireworks over Wolfeboro Bay on Sunday, December 31st, to encourage people to stay right here in Wolfeboro to celebrate the New Year's Eve.
I'll open the public hearing. Anyone from the audience has any questions or comments? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, any?
There's just one note that said firework permit required by the state of New Hampshire, and I'm sure you know it, but it's written right here on our sheet.
Yes, and I'll make sure that that's on premise and available beforehand from the fireworks company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make the, any other discussion? I'll make the motion to approve the issuance of a temporary outdoor event permit, the Wolfeboro Area Chamber of Commerce to hold fireworks over Wolfeboro on December 31st, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. with the display launched from Brewster Academy.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, next we have the bulk vote, which is some weekly manifest, property tax abatements and refunds, supplemental tax warrant for $557, and 2017 equalization municipal assessment data certificate. I'll entertain a motion to accept the bulk vote.
Move we accept the bulk vote.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the bulk vote?
Mr. Chairman, I just thought I'd make note. I don't know if the board members read the assessor's memo that came along with the equalization report. A couple of interesting points. First, that there were 22% more real estate sales in Wolfeboro this last year than there were the previous year. So there were a lot of sales data for them to work with. The other thing is that our equalization ratio is down to 90.9%, meaning we're nearly 10% under assessed at this point. And if it continues to go down, we're going to fall underneath the range that the Department of Revenue recommends of between 90 and 108% or whatever it is. So there is a comment in the assessor's report that the board may want to consider doing the reval study a year early next time, so that you're not falling below the recommended range.
That would also put us out of the sequence we're in terms of doing our cyclical
It would.
update. We'd have to look at that also. Okay.
Okay, just something to consider.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, under new business, we have discussion. It's a group called Please, and they're looking to place some signage on traffic signposts. This gentleman here tonight that'd like to speak to it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to step down.
My name's Howard Zimmerman, resident at Cherry Hill Retirement Community, been there 2 years. This whole thing started with Dean Rondeau. I know you've all heard him talk about the drug situation, and so we are here today. We have to ask you to see if we could find a way to to get our project underway and somehow still obey all the rules and all the road sign rules and everything else in the town of Wolfeboro, which we know are very true. We thank the speedy reply from Matt Sullivan and Dave Ford. We sat down with a little over a week ago, and they pointed out two obstacles. One was a safety issue because of our signs detracting from the warning signs that are now on the road. If we put an additional sign up there, that it may detract the driver and cause an issue. And the other, which I think they refer to as one of the major causes, is that there are sign ordinances in Wolfeboro that strictly prohibit this from happening. So as a suggestion, we had some ideas. These are in your packet. This is one of the ideas, that with the please sign on the back of the sign facing the oncoming traffic, which then wouldn't confuse the person coming to that hazard. The hazard would already be behind the person that saw the sign. And other suggestions we had is that within the town, there are lots of other signs that we could use, like it would be no parking, please. We thought of also, speed limit 30 miles an hour, please. That may be a stretch because it's on a mile-an-hour sign, but there are thin ice signs which we could have our sign posted. Would you like to show them that? The quality of the sign is it's all made in the Department of Correction, and it's the quality, it meets the standards of both the state and the town. And it's reflective, going to last for a long time. And this issue with drug addiction, as I'm sure you know, is going to last for a long time. And what I've asked for is a waiver of the rules that stop us from doing it for the next 12 years. The reason I put 12 years is because some people predict that it's going to take a generation through school, kindergarten through 12, to start turning this issue around. We do have one advantage over other organizations in that we're associated with the Rotary Club and Lions Club, and we can have this issue grow around different towns around the lake. And I've already got an appointment 2 weeks from now in Ossipee to talk to the Rotary Club there, and I've been asked to talk in Alton. And if Alton and Ossipee and Tuftonboro and Wolfeboro are all doing the same thing, then Wolfeboro gets the added advantage of having a cushion covered around. And I think it's important that the town approves us to do something so this campaign can go forward. Without the town support, we can't ask the merchants to do it. And so that's why the town support is so critical. Do you have anything? No. I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Board members, any questions? In reading through Matt Sullivan and Matt's letter here, have you talked to? I think, Mr. Ford, you stated that most of these signs are DOT signs that we're talking about. Is that correct?
I'm
Okay.
sorry. It's a
So
little.
have you talked to New Hampshire DOT at all?
No,
No. Okay.
no, it's timely. We just did this earlier in the week to get started.
I like the idea of it. I think it's a great idea. Is there any? I'm just thinking out loud here. Would there be other places in town other than putting the sign thing? Is I definitely have a concern about putting it on road signs, as Matt outlined in his letter, and as Mr. Ford, it is a distraction for drivers to be seeing a secondary sign on a sign that controls traffic. I'm thinking out loud in the sense of, I know we have seasonal receptacles in town that go out for trash that could get placed all over Wolfeboro that the town has made that have that possibly that might be a better placement for those type of things initially.
Okay.
And then as you go ahead.
They're down at the
Dockside.
The dockside in that area. There are there's a few places that we could pick from, to put a sign down there. In the different parks, there are different places to put signs. Yes, sir.
Also, nobody would have any clue what that sign means. Show it to everybody.
That's what's good about it.
Well, but I mean, somebody coming out
Because-
of town, they don't know whether it means slow down, please shop with local merchants. What does it mean? Nobody knows.
That's correct.
For the local people, we are going to have a banner ad in the paper every week, which will have one of the statements of our Please initiative, like, please be familiar with addiction, with the symptoms of addiction. We've got different ones for every week for the town paper. We have the brochure, which I think you have a copy of, which we plan to print, first printing probably 5,000 copies, and put those in places where people in need can find them, and any merchant that would have them in their facility for us. We also have quoted decals that are small that the merchant can put on his window that would read from the outside, and plus the signs lead people to a website.
Sure.
We have some interest in us doing a radio spot every month, and so we do have ways to get to the public in need that no other organization has shown to have.
Mr. Ford, would you have an objection to putting those on the receptacles in town, or some of the receptacles in town?
I do. I think I think it's a serious and significant problem in our society now. I applaud the effort by these gentlemen and their people to trying to do something, but we got to be careful about sending a mixed message. So I am, like I said, I think you asked the question, DOT. I'm almost certain the DOT will not allow you to attach anything to their post, and that's all DOT right-of-ways. The town does have 66 miles of right-of-way, so. And we have many traffic signs, but I would be against attaching anything to those signs for fear of taking them away. They did show me some ideas, but I like the idea of the trash containers. We have many of those. Bumper stickers might be another area that if people could have bumper stickers made up, and that would get a lot of attention. But I would have to recommend against attaching anything to our signposts in the right-of-way.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I would like to know, which has been mentioned about New Hampshire DOT. I'd be interested to know their feedback. You haven't contacted them yet, you said?
In New Hampshire, we haven't contacted them, no.
Okay, I would be interested in any feedback from them as well, later. But for now, I have to agree with Matt and David. I don't think it's a good idea for us to put them on our street signs. I don't disagree with containers or that kind of thing in different areas, but I'm not in favor of putting them on signposts at this point. But I would be interested with any feedback you might have from DOT.
Well, unless we get something significant going here, we can't go anywhere.
Well, so. You obviously have a right to go over to DOT Division 3 and talk to them, but again, I would say they're probably not going to be in favor either. That would be my reaction.
That's everybody's guess, yes.
Yeah.
So would you be interested in placing them on receptacles in town? People would see that all summer long and well into the fall. And that would give you a start. We could give you a trial period with those. There's a lot of those in town, and that people would walk by them and drive by them every single day, and it would gear people to the website while you work on making a contact with DOT and moving forward with that. It gives you exposure in the community, if we approve that, at least to get you going. Would you be interested in that?
I'm not going to say no. Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, if anyone, any other discussion from the board on that? I'll make the motion that we allow that for 1 year we do a trial run on, and we can obviously get a list of the receptacles in town, and maybe the first year you guys do a trial run on 50% of those, and we come back and revisit it in a year. And obviously, if something happens between now and then with DOT, and you get a positive reaction from them, then obviously you could come back to a board meeting and we could further discuss the road signs. So I'll make that a motion.
Second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me, because I don't think it's well thought out. I approve of drug things, and we've spent a lot of time, especially Dean Rondo, but nobody's going to know what please means, and no visitor is going to have any clue what that means, so I just think it needs to go back and be a little, for me, be a little more clear as to what it's about.
We will be doing our here, because you're exactly right.
Pardon?
You are exactly right.
Yeah.
Speaking to the microphone.
You need to speak in the mic but no one can hear you.
Okay. What I was saying is you are correct, Dave. We do need to get public relations because please doesn't mean anything to anyone yet. But we have seen circumstances in towns that we can talk about where this kind of thing really worked.
I think we're all very much in favor of drug prevention, and of course the police station has its new disposal area recently, and Dean Rondo was the first person in the state, believe it or not, to be aware of this problem. So I think we're all for the idea. It maybe just needs a little finessing.
It does. It needs work. And we will do that.
thank you. If you want to, reach out to Mr. Ford as we move closer to next spring, the containers go out, then we can get those signs placed on, some of those, and then we can move forward with that.
Good.
Okay?
Fine. Thank you.
Thanks for
your
your
time.
effort.
Okay, next under new business, Mr. Owen, I guess we have an additional agency funding request. It's from Children's Unlimited, Inc.
Correct. I think there's a representative here this
Okay.
evening. Talk to you.
Hello, my name is Joanne Kelly, and I'm the Executive Director of Children Unlimited. One of the programs we have at Children Unlimited based in Conway is the Resource Center for Carroll County. Our Resource Center covers all of Carroll County, including Wolfeboro, and that's why I'm here tonight. Our Resource Center, we do a lot of home visits, parent education, life skill training, family counseling. We're a child care resource. We do supervised visitation, crisis intervention. We have parenting and co-parenting classes, the Watch Me Grow screening for young children. We do court-ordered parenting services and child health support services. As I say, we cover Wolfeboro, and this year we have seen 10 families in Wolfeboro. The purpose of the program is to help families stay out of the DCYF system. The reason I am here this year, and I haven't been here before, is because of the drug crisis. We are getting so many more referrals than we are able to handle without expanding our program. Again, the program is a prevention program. At this point, your resource center, the Carroll County Resource Center, has the highest rate of keeping families out of the DCYF system in the state of New Hampshire. When families engage in our resource center, we have a 79% rate of keeping them engaged and therefore keeping them out of the system. The average in the state is 40 to 50%. We have people who work specifically in this area, like Shelley Rondeau and Helen, another gal, and then we also have other people who cover Conway as well as down here. We have 5 people working in that area right now. So I'm here to ask for some extra support from the town. I'm asking for one visit for each family. Again, we saw 10 families last year. So far this year, we've already seen, I think, 8, and we're not even halfway through the year yet.
You're on a fiscal year, not a calendar year.
A fiscal year, right. Goes from July 1st to June 30th, yes. Thank you.
I have a question. When I read the pamphlet and you had Shelley Rondeau and Helen White, they both work for the VNA, and Helen partners in the Children's Center in Wolfeboro. She's employed and does
That's
it
right.
too, and
Yep.
and the center has gotten funds to help support that program. So when you talk about the 10, are you talking about those 10 are families that you are dealing with in this area?
She's a part-time, obviously, for our program, as is Shelley. Do you know of any of those families? Barbara Ross is the director of that program.
Hi.
Do you know of Shelley?
It's complicated.
Yeah.
There are actually 3 programs that we're talking
Okay.
about. And
Okay.
Shelley and Helen do Healthy Families America. That's one part. They also do Home Visiting New Hampshire and our grant. So it's percentage. But the way it works is that they handle the families that are down here for our program.
But they're paid through you?
Yes.
Okay, that's where, you're the ones who pay them, not those other
For part.
agencies that
Right.
they're working for. This is when they do the work that relates to your agency.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
2,000, was it 2,000?
What is
What is the
the,
dollar amount?
$2,730 they're requesting.
Okay.
That's more? That's an addition?
It's in addition to all the other agency requests that you've already asked on, and the Budget Committee will be hearing agency requests on December 12th, next week.
Oh, here it is. I know I had it here. You know, I think it's a very good program. I've always been a believer in putting as much money as you can in the younger children because it pays off in the end to keep them going in the right path and having the support that they need to grow into productive adults. So therefore, I'll make the motion that the board approve $2,730 for Children Unlimited, Inc.
Second, Tom.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much for your
Thank you
time
very much.
Next, we have, under new business, Mr. Ford is here tonight to talk about replacing a Bobcat skid steer at the solid waste facility. Mr. Ford?
Yep, thank you. The solid waste facility and the highway divisions are covered by the vehicle capital reserve account. This vehicle, skid steer, I had made a mistake in terms of estimating its useful life. I had estimated at, I think, 14 to 15 years, but it has reached the end of its useful life in 8 years. As a result, we had it, a Bobcat. It was analyzed, and it was determined that while we could fix it, it would be almost 50% of what it cost to be a new vehicle, and then they told us it wouldn't last long, so it would be a waste of money. The Bobcat is a very important piece of equipment. We have 2 of them at the solid waste facility, and as you know, we have a very excellent facility there, but we do need those to move the trash because we don't dump directly in. We're very careful about recyclables, and it's a piece of equipment that we need to do right away. So the capital reserve account is healthy enough, and this is why we created it, so we could take on emergencies, and this is not the first time I think I've come to you with surprises. I did have to adjust the plan going out, but moving things around a little bit, not greatly. I feel we can go ahead with this purchase if you agree, and we can get this replaced very quickly. We'll be looking at replacing it with a similar type machine, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Ford?
I just have one. I support this. The money's there. It makes sense then to waste 50% of its cost in a vehicle that's not going to last. My only concern was when I looked at your spreadsheet for the year 21, and when we have to replace the grader, and wondering, not this year, but whether we shouldn't look in the next year or so picking up the amount we put in to be able to cover that. I'm assuming that these are estimated costs.
Correct. These are estimated in 2017 dollars. As we know, everything goes up. I have been trying to level fund this account, trying with all our needs. We've also been heavy on preventative maintenance, trying to extend the useful life of certain trucks. We're buying better equipment also with our heavy equipment, and we will look at this. And I think year to year, I will always analyze and present you where we are. Currently, I think this is a good plan, even though it looks like in 3 years we'll be very close, $9,000. What this doesn't include is in our trade-in values, and we do get trade-in values, but that kind of offsets some of the escalation. So next year we're going to start a little earlier. We're going to update all the equipment, look at more recent costs, and then if we think we need to start increasing the capital reserve account again, we'll make that decision next year. But I think right now we can hold at the 170.
Yeah, I'm fine with this year, but I wanted to make sure that we keep a look on it, because as I recall, we've had a major repair on the grader.
We had a significant repair. That's when I came to you earlier,
Yeah.
but we did absorb that within the operations budget. That should extend that useful life of that. That's not a piece of that. Usually once in its life we'll have that major repair. So I think that'll be okay.
Okay.
One other thing too, Adam Tasker has made an application to New Hampshire the Beautiful. We have a very good shot at getting a $5,000 grant to support this. So hopefully that also helped defray the cost. That can go into our cap reserve to defray the cost. So again, we appreciate your support.
Thank you. Need to make a motion on that?
I'd like to make a motion that we purchase the new Bobcat per the proposal.
Second?
A motion's been made and seconded.
From the Capital Reserve Fund,
From the Capital Reserve Fund.
right?
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
We all get to drive it?
I think we at least should be able to go for a ride.
Next we have, Mr. Owen, it looks like we have the Wolfeboro Heritage Commission's here to discuss the old freight house.
We do.
Okay.
We have several members, I believe.
I know
Yes.
her.
I'm Maggie Steer, Chair of the Heritage Commission. I'd like to acknowledge also Wendy McHugh, who is here tonight as well. On November 30th, we invited John Sims of the Lakes Region Model Railroad Museum to meet with the Heritage Commission after we had heard that the week before he'd presented to all of you a proposed warrant article that would allow demolition of the freight house and reconstruction of a replica. This would, he stated, reduce the overall costs of his project and allow for the necessary interior climate controls, but it would sacrifice the historic building that we've all worked so hard to this point to try to maintain and find a new use for. So I'm glad that you discouraged him from this path. And when he came to our meeting this last Thursday, we were delighted that he had an alternate proposal to share. His concept was to construct a climate control room about 18 inches in from the walls of the existing building and to add a basement under the building as the previous proposal had included. This has the great advantage of leaving the historic building intact and also meeting his needs, keeping the building at its current height above the ground, which is obviously necessary to interpret it as a railroad freight building, and allow them the kind of climate control they need. The Heritage Commission feels this would be an excellent solution. It would retain the form, siding, roof, windows, and the interior's open stud construction, and that probably would be visible to anyone who wanted to see the interior as well. We also advised Mr. Sims that similar solutions had been used elsewhere and that adding a basement and constructing such a room inside a shell were concepts that have been used elsewhere that meet the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and therefore would be eligible for LCHIP funding. While Mr. Sims told us that their earlier LCHIP proposal had been rejected because it did not meet those standards, he did tell us that they were being offered a smaller amount from LCHIP for planning and assessment purposes. We encouraged him to accept that money, and I think that happened earlier this week. And we also support the second warrant article that Mr. Sims had asked for, which is to extend the deadline by which they need to receive their funding to rehabilitate the building to December 31st of 2021. Now I have another thing to add to this, which is that historic structures like the freight house, like the train station, like Pickering House, and like other buildings such as the Durgan Block, Blacks, and the Avery Building, all contribute to Wolfeboro's identity and sense of place. Their continued use and rehabilitation are good for our economy, good for our tourism business, and for our quality of life. The Heritage Commission advocates for the continued use of key historic buildings whenever possible. We know that property owners are facing challenges when new building codes are strictly enforced in historic rehabilitation, and such enforcement often works against rehabilitation and may limit business expansion and new investment, or in some cases lead to proposals such as Mr. Sims made to tear down and build new. There is a process for waivers for historic buildings, either designated nationally, state, or locally. And at the local level, there can be considerable flexibility in meeting life safety requirements without sacrificing historic character or unreasonably burdening a project's budget. We feel this ought to be of the utmost importance as the selectmen go forward in finding a new town manager, and we would like to ask your permission to write to MRI, the search consultants, asking if an affinity for preserving historic character and a knowledge of historic preservation codes and strategies might be added to their list of search criteria. Furthermore, both Von Dugan and I are both available to serve on the town's search panels if you would like us to. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer questions, and I do have a transcript of my remarks tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if you would send that to the Board of Selectmen, what you're looking for in terms of a question to be added, we're going to be reviewing that, and we can add it to the questions because we help MRI develop those.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, next we have the review of the
I think
warrant.
they want a motion on that, do they?
That's the warrant article, so we'll be going through that.
Do we move that we approve the new warrant article?
The warrant article will be, if we do them in order, it'll be the last one on our
We'll
list.
do that later.
It's on the list.
Okay, so warrant articles, we got, looks like Mr. Puffer went through them, and
Exactly. You have the list of warrant articles in front of you, along with the latest revised language on each of the articles. You'll see the town council has reviewed the articles, and his comments have been incorporated into the articles. There are, I think, there is one change that you're going to hear about directly with the library article. You want to address that?
So when we looked at the warrant article, I started checking the numbers to make sure that they were as close as possible. And one of the things that we had to make note of is the capital reserve figure that I put in originally was around $25,000, but that includes both public and private funds that are being held by the trustees of the trust fund. And so I talked to Pete, and he said they have to be separated. So basically what we've proposed, and I talked to Dave Owen about this too, since those are trustee side funds, that approximately 3,000 that they put in a number of years ago. We put that in with the 120,000 that was in the warrant article, so it would change that to 123,000 from the trustees funds. And the 25,000 goes down to 21,000. It's still the same amount of money, but we're pulling the private and the public monies apart and putting them in different places in here.
Our says 22,000. Is it 21 or 22?
Well, 22 is pretty close. It's 21,768. And the
22,000 is what we discussed on the telephone. That's
Okay.
what I put in the warrant article.
All right, great. And then the other is 3,000.
Right. So you'll see the figures down below in the warrant article have been changed, but the amount of the bond issue and the total appropriation amounts remain the same.
Mr. Chairman, don't we need to vote on these?
Yes,
we should go through each one and vote on.
I'd like to get the
Okay.
board's vote on
Got it.
warrant articles.
Okay, we'll start with these in order.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the library renovation and expansion project warrant article for $5 million.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the library renovation and expansion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0. So we have construction of Westwood Drive, subject to betterment assessment.
I have one question on that. Should we add language similar to some of the others, no increase to the tax rate, which is not on this one?
That certainly can be inserted because this is at no, no cost. It's supposed to.
I would like to see that added and bolded. I think it will help the warrant article.
Okay, I agree. Do you want to vote on that one, or do you want to hold off until he puts it on?
I saw Dave.
Mr. Ford's here.
I was just, in case you had questions, I wasn't sure. So if everyone's clear on what's going on, the one thing I would say to you and the public, we did have some communication with Mark Puffer. So what's included here is the contingencies. It's a conservative estimate. It did go up a little bit because what we decided is the number we can't exceed this number. Our hope is that we can do the construction for less. So I do have some conservatism in the estimate, but the number that was revised up to the 263,000 is a not to exceed number, and it does not include the interest. So that would be the bond. So it does not include the interest, but as Pete was saying, right now the bond rates are very low, and that should help with the long-term debt retirement, which would be by the property owners from the betterment assessment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ford. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the construction of Westwood Drive subject to betterment assessments.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. So we have a stormwater collection system asset management plan. This is a warrant article for $30,000.
Am I correct on this? I'm not sure that we will bond it, but there'll be no impact to the taxpayer? Or can we not? There was some kind of...
It's a little more confusing. This is a state revolving fund loan, SRF loan. So we have to go through because it's coming through their loan fund, we have to have a bond vote. Mm-hmm. But once the project is complete, they forgive it. So it's a forgiveness of 100%. So technically it's like a grant, but we have to still go through the process like we did last year with the wastewater collection system.
Yeah, I'm just trying to decide whether we can put the language on no increase to the tax rate, and I would assume we could on this.
That would be correct.
So I would like to have that added to it. That's why I was...
I think that's how we did it last year. We can double check because we had a similar warrant article last year.
Yeah. It wasn't on this, and I was just wondering whether we could do that. So if we can, I'd like to add that to it. Bold. You know me in bold.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the stormwater collection system asset management plan warrant article.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0.
I think you can skip the operating
Yep.
budget because we don't have the numbers for that yet.
Okay.
That's good.
Next, we have town road upgrades. This is a warrant article for $870,000 for the purposes of upgrading to town roads and drainage systems.
I move that we vote to approve that amount of money.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I have a technical question. David, is it possible for Brad Harriman, who's not here tonight, to add his vote by mail or something so it says 5-0?
The board would have to revote it at a subsequent meeting.
Oh, okay,
Board
just
of-
an idea.
board.
We could, but we need a vote for it to go to the Budget Committee, is why we really,
We could have a bulk vote at the next meeting if Brad is here, just
Yeah.
to, he adds, yeah, let's think about that.
yeah.
Okay. 4-0 on that. Next, we have, reconstruction of the 390 line. And is there?
Well, there's, Barry's here because there's going to be a change to this article.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not necessarily in the language, but it's the amount. If you recall, I said we were still waiting for some engineering and survey numbers. I finally did get those today, a little late, I apologize. But unfortunately, it did increase the price substantially. The new number should be $1,210,000. And much of that increase was based on the wetlands delineation that was tagged out there. There was a lot more than we originally anticipated, so we're going to have to utilize a lot of timber mats and much more silt fence than we originally anticipated, to the tune of a couple $100,000 more. So I would still propose to fund that out of our fund. It's our unrestricted fund balance is still healthy at $5.6 million. So I would take it out of current revenue, much like we have the last few.
Sure. I'll make the motion then to approve warrant article for the reconstruction of the 390 line with that new price tag of $1,210,000.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0 on that one. Next we have dockside docks, existing expansion dock engineering.
I don't see
Dockside
that.
docks.
It says dockside docks.
Right. This one says restrooms.
Did you catch it with the other one? Here, you can look at mine.
Wait,
We'll look at it together.
Dockside docks is first.
115,000.
115,000.
I move that we approve the dockside dock warrant article for $115,000.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion on this warrant article? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed.
Oh, I don't have that one.
Probably find it down in-
Dockside public restrooms is the next one. And that's a warrant article for $150,000 to reconstruct and expand the public restrooms at the dockside restaurant facility.
I'll move that we approve dockside public restrooms expansion
I'll second that.
at $150,000.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion on this warrant article? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Next, we have the affluent disposal study. See the town raise $500,000 from the sewer fund for the purpose of designing and permitting the long-term effluent disposal solution and make required site work upgrades in accordance with New Hampshire DES and the town's administrative order by consent. Will not result in any increase in the tax rate. Did you want that bolded, Linda?
What?
Increase in the tax rate will not
Well, they've
result.
got that the whole bottom part of that is being bolded,
Okay.
so.
Any questions for Mr. Ford on this?
I had a comment, Luke.
Okay.
I just, when I heard you say raise and appropriate,
Sorry,
that's what it says.
yeah.
Is that correct, though? Because we've already have the money?
Well, the Department of Revenue is fixated on having that language to raise and appropriate, to appropriate, even if you already have the money and you're just transferring it. They want that language.
Okay, so that's all.
I'll move that we approve that warrant article.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Next, we have sewer rehabilitation warrant article. This is $50,000 warrant article from the Sewer Enterprise Fund for the purpose of designing and permitting upgrades to the sewer collection system to reduce infiltration. And these activities will not result in any increase to the tax rate.
I have a question on this. Is that $50 also coming from the settlement, or is this new appropriation?
Nope, this is going to also come from the settlement, and it is directly tied to it because the less infiltration that gets in, the less we have to dispose of. That's how we've linked them, and it is part of our administrative order, so it's very similar.
Then we need to add that language.
It's not there?
No, that's why I,
Language about the legal settlement in there?
yes, it needs it. These activities will be paid for from a legal settlement.
Okay.
That isn't in there, and that's why I was asking.
Right. Yeah, we just had it didn't increase the tax rate, but we could add that also.
I'll make the motion to approve that with the change that Linda just noted in the language, with the settlement language.
Second.
The motion's been made, seconded. Any further discussion on this warrant article? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0, Mr. Owen.
Got it.
Okay. Replace water treatment plant control panels. This is a warrant article for $175,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund for the purpose of upgrading control panels and computers at the water treatment plant, and these activities will not result in any increase in the tax rate. Any discussion on that one? Okay, I'll make that motion then to move that warrant article.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Next, we have the Pine Street water line replacement. This is a $260,000 warrant article for the Water Enterprise Fund for the purpose of replacing the existing water line in Pine Street. These activities will not result in any increase in the tax rate.
And we need, will not result in an increase to the tax rate, bolded.
Hold it. I want to move that. I'll move that forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Next, we have a warrant article for the Bay Street sidewalks. Any discussion on that warrant article?
I'll move to approve the Bay Street sidewalk warrant article.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the Bay Street sidewalk warrant article? Seeing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Next warrant article is Dockside Docks Capital Reserve Fund. See if the town will vote to establish a Dockside Docks Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of repairing and expanding the Dockside Docks, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be deposited in the said Capital Reserve Fund. Any discussion on that? I'll move that warrant article then.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion? None. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Next, we have Dockside Parking Lot Capital Reserve Fund. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be deposited in the existing Dockside Parking Lot Capital Reserve Fund. Discussion, board?
I'll
Move that we pass the Dockside Capital Lot Reserve Fund.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? Being none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 4-0. Next, we have fire trucks and apparatus replacement capital reserve fund. This is $186,000 to be added to the existing fire trucks and apparatus replacement capital reserve fund. Board members?
I'll move the article.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 4-0. Public Works Vehicles and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund is the next warrant article. It's $170,000 to be added to the existing Public Works Vehicles and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Any discussion on this warrant article or corrections? I'll move this article.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Okay, we have Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve Fund. This is a $16,750 to be added to the existing Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve Fund.
I move we accept that.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We have the wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund. This is $125,000 to be added to the existing wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund. Any discussion?
I move we do that.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? This is going easy. Okay, next we have Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund. This is a $75,000 warrant article to be added to the existing Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, established for the purpose of making needed repairs and performing needed maintenance to the town's building facilities. I'll move that.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Okay. Next, we have the Libby Museum feasibility study. This is to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000, of which amount 2/3 of the cost will be borne by private foundation and 1/3 by the town. The purpose of conducting a feasibility study on the options to best accommodate both the current Libby Museum collections and additions to it by restoring and/or expanding the existing museum building. Further, to authorize the Selectmen to accept the monies from the private foundation to be used for the said purpose. The amount to be raised by general taxation shall not exceed $25,000.
I move we accept that.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? 4-0. Okay, we're pulling that one, right?
The restoration of hydrant fees, I think that can be deleted at this point, given that the Budget Committee has acted on to increase the amount that
Okay.
they budgeted for the hydrant fees.
Okay.
Well, just to keep it going, I'll make a motion that we eliminate restoration of hydrant fees from our warrant articles.
And I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we have the new warrant article for the Lakes Region Model Railroad Museum extension of time. And I'll just read this one because it's new. To see if the town will vote to amend Article 22, approved by the voters at the 2017 town meeting, by extending the deadline for the town's receipt of private funds from December 31st, 2018 to December 31st, 2021. The 2017 warrant Article 22 established a capital reserve fund for the purpose of renovating the old Railroad Freight House building at 61 Railroad Avenue and raised and appropriated the sum of $95,000 to be placed in the said capital reserve fund, and the town's expenditure of said amount was contingent upon the raising of private funds for the said purpose. The expenditure of the funds appropriated by the town in 2017 shall continue to be contingent upon the town's receipt of private funds being raised for said purpose. The present article shall not raise any additional town funds. Shall not raise any additional town funds.
The only thing I see on here is we need to add another sentence that says, in parentheses, recommended by the Budget Committee. That is not on this.
It's not a financial warrant article, so I didn't include the budget.
They don't need to approve it?
Pardon?
You don't think they need to approve it?
Well, it can go to them for review, but it's not a financial article.
Okay.
Mr. Ford?
Yeah, my ears lit up when you said extending to 2021. We have a very old building that will require some maintenance. If it's going to, if we're going to go another year, just so you understand, we're going to have to do something because there's rock, there's areas where the weather's going to get and make it worse. So just so you understand that we are going to have to do something there, and we haven't appropriated any funds of that because I guess I hadn't thought about that. But if it extends another 3+ years, we will have to do something. And just something to think about at this point, whether if it's an emergency, it might be small dollars, so we can maybe within our building and grounds or the capital reserve account for the buildings, because that's a town building, right?
Yep.
But just so you're aware that that is a concern that we would want to make sure. We would work with the Heritage Society and the association there to make sure we don't do anything bad, but we do need to preserve what we have.
Okay.
So we have that fund for, right?
So I'll move that warrant article. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Second, okay. Is there any further discussion?
I do think we probably, following David Ford, we probably should have David update us on maintenance if nothing's done in the building in the next 2 or 3 years, just so it doesn't fall apart further.
Agreed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0. That covers the warrant articles.
I did provide you some other information on that all veterans tax credit, about how many other communities had adopted it and such, just in response to the board's questions about it. I'm not advocating putting it on the warrant. It's just information.
Okay. Okay, now we got to set some public hearings. Set a public hearing on the proposed bond issues over the 100,000. Mr. Owen.
Right.
A couple dates proposed here.
We have a public hearing notice which is ready to roll and be posted.
Thank you.
We have 2 bond issues over $100,000 being proposed, one for the library project and for the Westwood Drive project. So to comply with the requirement, the New Hampshire law, we need to have this hearing on proposed bond issues, and this could be held at your January 3rd meeting, would meet the time frame, and that's the way we've drafted it up here, unless the board has any change to it.
I'm fine with it. When do we need to post the warrant? We haven't had those dates. It should be sometime the end of January.
Yes.
We should know that date.
Well, let's see what we have here. January 25th, it looks like, is the last day to post everything.
January 25th.
The warrant and the operating budget and everything.
So we're going to set these two articles, we're going to set these, want to do these ones on January 3rd, that'll be their first regular meeting in January?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one comment. I did look, Mr. Owen told us that he had put the warrant articles in order. I looked at them, I did some thought, and I came back to it, and I think he put it in very good order. I don't have any changes to it. I think that makes sense on the way you laid it out, so.
Okay, good.
I'm fine.
Thanks.
It doesn't happen
Guess
very
I've
often
worked here
for
long
me,
enough.
does
I've
it?
learned how the board likes it ordered, huh?
See, I don't always have to change everything.
Okay, so I'll make that motion to approve setting the date for the public hearing on the proposed bond issues over $100,000 for January 3rd.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any further discussion?
Don't have a, you don't
Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Everybody's going to be here but me, January 3rd.
I think so.
Okay. We have, it looks like the bid for the printing of the 2017 reports has been awarded, Mr. Owen, and it's time to think about covers.
Yes, I wanted to see if the board had any ideas about what to put on the cover for the 2017 town report.
Of course I do.
How about something,
Well, I was hoping somebody
I
would.
was thinking
how
if
about a nice picture of the great room, which everybody's been using in the past year?
that's,
Great room being occupied by somebody.
that could, the other one I thought about is the sightings almost up on the Fossfield building. And if we could get somebody to take a picture of that, that would be another nice one. I did get from my brother-in-law one image. He had a mishap with his drone in which his camera hit the water in the fall, but he does have one of the town docks, and I can just, it's a dark picture. Since we're doing some work on the docks, he is hoping that it's in a form that we can use.
Did we do a one on the front and back last year?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This before or after he had the accident with the...
This was before, because he doesn't have the,
Yeah, that's,
it was a tree that it got out of sight, and he didn't see the tree in it.
that's good.
We get somebody to take pictures of the...
Yeah, I can see if I can get him to go down and take pictures of the building. I don't think all the sightings quite up.
No, you might want to
stopped
give it
on the
another
outside
week or
yesterday.
10
How
days.
much time do we have on that? A while?
Until the end of the, yeah, we won't go to the printers until early January, mid-January.
Okay, I'll get him to see if he can send this to you, and then I'll see if I can talk him into going down and taking a picture.
That'd be great.
You might ask Bob Ness to see what he has, because he has a large inventory of pictures.
Okay. That wraps up all the new business. Is there any old business?
Oh, I do have some old business. I've got a bunch of stuff to hand out to you. You've seen it before, but we're going to need to start making decisions on the town manager's material. Oops, no, that's not the one. So the first one I'm going to hand out is oh, these are in packets. Okay, now I know what I did. These are packets. It has 3 documents in it. David, this one for David Owen.
Give me one.
Yep. The first one on top was the ad, and we don't have to go through it tonight, but I'd like you to go over them and make changes. On the first sentence, I know that we're at 6,000, I think 500 in population. We're going to have to change the salary range. Anything else that you see in that warrant, that ad that we should change? Then the next page is the ideal candidate's profile and challenge statement. These we wrote 2 years ago. It's a 2-page document. Again, would you read it over? Make sure that that is what we would like to have as a challenge statement. If there are other things we want to put in or change, we should really try to do that next meeting. And then the final document that I have for you is the essay questions that the candidates are going to have to write answers to and send them to MRI. We also heard tonight a request from the Heritage Commission to add some language about having some historical preservation skill sets or interests. So instead of, I've shown it to you before, but let's make sure we finalize it at next meeting, and so we can be ready to start going in the beginning of the year. I can contact Alan Gould again and get ourselves going.
Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
Any other old business? Any other business? Mr. Owen, Town Manager's report.
Yes, a few things. First, just to remind everybody, we have the town employees holiday party on Friday evening at 6:30, and hope to see all of you there. I put a copy in your packet of, we received a bequest, a will for the Libby Museum is going to receive some amount of money. We don't know what it is yet. Apparently the attorney representing the estate will let us know sometime after the beginning of the year what that is, but any sum of money would be welcome for use at the Libby Museum. I think I put in your packet just the cover of a new publication that the New Hampshire Municipal Association has out called A Guide to Open Government. It covers the right to know law and all the changes and decisions and interpretations and everything, including some of the questions that come up here occasionally about emails and voting telephonically or otherwise in absentia, all those kinds of things. I have a copy of it downstairs, and if any member wants a copy, we can arrange that. It's a $55 publication, and it seems to be well worth it from what I
I would like one of those.
thought. Okay. I can mark you down for one.
Yep.
Anyone else?
I'd like one also.
Okay. This afternoon, we concluded our interviews with the architects for the public safety building space needs planning project. We interviewed 3 finalist architect firms. There were 9 firms that had originally submitted proposals. We narrowed it down to three that we thought were the best, interviewed the three of them, and there was a general consensus of the selection panel, which Dave Senecal served on, to award it to LaValle Renzinger, is that how you say it? Which is the same architectural firm that's doing the library project. And of course, the public safety building is right next door, so they have a lot of insights about the site and traffic and you know, all the conditions there. The amount of the this work is going to be $44,500. We have about $97,000 or $98,000 in the capital reserve fund for the public safety building. So unless the board has any objection, I would propose to sign a contract with LaValle Brenzinger for that work and to get it under contract.
I think that's great.
Okay.
Should we have a motion for that, David?
I think you should.
I'll take a motion.
I'd move that we contract with LaValle Brenninger for the study at the public safety building.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All's in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, and then lastly, just to let you know, I'm going to be out of the office all day on Friday. I'll get back here in time for the Christmas party, but I'm going to be at a conference, a workshop in Portland that day.
Thanks, Mr. Owen.
That's it.
Committee reports, we'll start down there with Dave.
Yeah, the only thing I had was the 3 interviews we had with the different architects. I thought they were well done. Some of the things were jokingly asked about, but I think all in all, I think we're going to get the best of the money that they quoted for this project. Dean liked the idea of the hot tub on the roof, so on the back roof, the flat one. No, I thought that Mark was also involved in these interviews, and I think that this group had the strongest presentation.
Great. Linda?
I went to a chamber social the other night out at the Kingswood Youth Center, which was nice to see that facility and hear about all that they do with our young middle school and high school students. We're lucky to have a facility like that in town. I went to the Route 28 Steering Committee. They're looking at 4 different proposals: a roundabout, a 3-way traffic light, a 4-way traffic light, and do nothing. The reason for the 4-way traffic light is Brewster is thinking very seriously of changing their entrance, and they would want it to come into that corner. The next time the committee is going to meet is on the 12th of December, and then there will be 2 public hearings to get public input after the first of the year. I also went to the Budget Committee and pleaded with them about the town manager's salary range, and I'm pleased to report that they were willing to go to $120,000 for that range. So I'm pleased with that, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Linda. Dave?
No committee meetings. I've been helping 2 people working on books for Wolfeboro, and also working with the library, giving them some historical resources to help them with their genealogy and history.
Thank you. So a budget committee meeting on Monday night, the budget committee voted to reinstate full-time position, full-time administrative assistant at the Parks and Rec Department that we had put in, that we had approved. So that did get pushed forward. However, when they eliminated the part-time line to $100, they didn't leave any room for between now and the new budget for funds for the part-timers. So it looks like they're going to be revisiting the whole 100 series again under Parks and Recs at the next meeting. 12th, I think. When's the next budget meeting? Is it Monday?
Monday, the 12th. Is the 12th Monday?
Are they going to, I read through some of the emails. Did they say they're going to revisit the Parks and Rec at that meeting, or?
It sounded like they were going to do it then, yes.
And what day are they doing the warrant articles?
That'll start on the 13th and continue to the 14th of next.
Okay, so on Monday, they're going to do the part-time line item, Park and Rec, and on Tuesday, they're going to start warrant articles.
That's all I had for committee report. Questions from the press? Press? Public input, limited to 3 minutes per person, per resident, not to exceed 15 minutes in total. Cole, Mary? Captain?
Get called out.
Okay. Next meeting is December 20th. I would entertain a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Yes.
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 David, why don't we do that, okay?
Meeting adjourned.